Welcome to another weekly analysis of the S&P 500. In this video, we're just going to do a brief overview of the cash index and also look at the market sentiment and the internals. Then on a separate video this weekend I will put out and where I will go to a little bit more detail on the ETF or the SPY, QQQ, IWM, the Diamond. And then also we'll look at a couple of the stock of interest. So be sure to keep an eye out for this video during the weekend. I will most likely put it out possibly sometime on Sunday. But this is a video just kind of give you an overview of what I see in the market and what have transpired. All right, let's take a look at the sentiment chart here. You see the VIX is coming back down again, down at the 17 level now. Remember earlier we saw this actually peak above the 20 level, but you see it came back down. And also the put-call ratio a few days ago, it was up over 1.2, and now it's back inside of this hedge zone between 0.75 and 1. So definitely the market participant is a little bit more at ease, although it is, they are still fearful, but not as close to a panic mode. And you can see that the S&P 500 really got this little rally going on, and a lot of the people was basically categorized today as a short squeeze. So we're going to take a look at a little bit more on the price action and see, is it really a short squeeze or is it something more than that? And look at the New York Stock Exchange up-down volume ratio on Friday. See, it's 2.8 to 1 in favor of the up volume. Even the prior 2 days was slightly positive. So it was favoring the up volume. Even on yesterday, with Thursday being a down day, the up-down volume ratio was actually positive 1.01 in favor of the up volume, although the daily advance and decline was a little bit favor on the declining issue, but it's not that many. It's only 299 more declining stock than advancing stock yesterday. But today it's over 800. It's sitting at 880 more advancing stock than declining stocks. Now we are still seeing quite a number of stock making new 52-week low, although the market have rallied up. But the number of stock making new low on Friday was 337 versus only 27 stock making new 52-week high. And the cumulative AD line, the New York Stock Exchange, is still holding up fairly well. It's basically moving in unison with the S&P 500, so we are not seeing much of a divergence. And look at the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ was also pretty much on a broad market rally here on Friday. It was almost 2.5 to 1 in favor of the up volume. And there were 1,088 more advancing stock than declining stock. And the NASDAQ 100 was up a whopping 1.7%, a little bit over 250 points. But similarly to the New York Stock Exchange, the number of stock making new 52-week low is still relatively high. There were 313 stock make 52-week low versus only 33 stock make new 52-week high on Friday in the NASDAQ market. And looking at the NASDAQ cumulative AD line, we noticed that there was a negative divergence a couple of days ago that developed, and we still need that to resolve. And along with this negative divergence, and there's a huge negative divergence. So again, the cumulative AD line is still pointing some negative territory for the NASDAQ. So although we see the market kind of rebounded a little bit this week, but we are not totally out of the wood yet. Because looking at the sentiment, the market participants are still fearful, and they are not totally resigned because they are still in this hedge mode here. And also the advanced decline, new high, new low, although they are not deteriorating as badly as earlier, but they are still not pointing a positive momentum to push the market up. So we could see there's maybe just another dead cat bounce, or other people like to call it a short squeeze. Let's take a look at the indexes. For the week here, we noticed that the NASDAQ 100 and the NASDAQ Composite is the top performer for the week. They both gained over 1.5%, while the S&P 500 gained about 0.5%, and then the industrial, the transportation, the New York Stock Exchange Composite, and the Russell 2000, they are all negative for the week, with the Russell 2000 being the worst performer of the week. So let's take a look at the NASDAQ 100 first. You see that it came down to this trend line. It seems to be hugging this trend line right now and holding support here. So we'll see, would it be able to come up here and possibly get above this trend line and break this 15,500. And if it could, then we basically are looking for a possibility of a higher high and then maybe it could challenge this particular high here in the near term. Now, if it unable to get above this trend line, instead it break this particular trend line, then we're basically looking for this thing to come down to this somewhere around 13,000 level, putting a little bit of a lower low, and then come up and maybe do a little bit of a back test of this trend line before it flushes down. Likewise for the composite, the Nasdaq composite is also holding the trend line here. So once again, we're basically looking to see would it be able to break this trend line up here and come up to this 14,100 area and possibly put in a higher high, then come up and challenge this 14,500. But if it's unable to break this trend line, then we're basically looking for a break of this trend line and possibly make it back down to this area about 12,250. And for the S&P 500, the S&P 500 actually came down below this trend line here and popped right back up. So you can see that a lot of people is calling this a little bit of a bottom, but I don't believe this is the bottom yet, although it's still got a little bit more upside, possible upside move. If it could break above this pivot low here that it broke down from, and that's basically about 43.30, 43.40, and pushes up to this trend line, unless it could break this trend line, get above the 4,500, then basically looking for this thing to continue to move back down and break below the 4,200, and then come down to this 3,900 area here and check for support possibly. So we're still looking for some downside move for the S&P 500, although in the near term, we could see a little bit more bounce on the upside, but watch this trend line. I don't believe this is the bottom for this particular cycle. And for the Dow Jones Industrial, you see the Dow Jones Industrial broke this trend line quite a while back, and ever since it was unable to make it back even close to that. Right now, it seems to try to test this pivot low here for possible resistance. If it could break this resistance and come back above it, then maybe it could work up toward this trend line down here, up here at 34,100 area here, and see would it be able to break this trend line. But I still foresee that we could see a little bit more of a downside for the Dow Jones Industrial and possibly maybe come up and then come back down to this 32,500, chop around and then proceed down to 31,000. Now the transportation looked kind of interesting because it came down to this trend line, seems to be holding this supporting trend line here. And also we got quite a steep declining trend line here. So we'll see would it be able to break above this 15,000 level and then possibly start trying to make a higher high or higher low and then start pushing it back up to this 15,500. But looking at this price action, I would not be surprised to see it break this trend line and come back down and possibly test this 13,500 area. And for the New York Stock Exchange composite, I basically got two trend lines here, depending which one you want to watch. This is the one from the October low and come up here. So you see it broke right underneath this 30-week moving average and then start coming down. Right now, we did get a little bit of a bounce the last few days. And holding up at this particular trend line here that I also drew in using these lows here. And we found that maybe it could come down and test this 14,800 and then pushes back up. Who knows, right? But I'm still looking for a little bit more downside on the New York Stock Exchange composite and possibly come back down to this 14,300 area here. And for the Russell 2000, you see the Russell 2000, I'm looking at this huge range. It's basically been chopping around for the last year or so in this huge range, from October to current October here. So I'd be watching to see would it break this range and start dipping down, and the first low that I'd be keeping an eye out is somewhere around this 1650 here. Now, if we could get a little bounce and get back up on the trend line and start making a series of higher low and higher high, then we could see it possibly come back up to test this 1825. So as you can see, those are the indexes. A lot of them basically came down to the trend line, found a little bit of a temporary support, and currently it's bouncing a little bit. So it'd be interesting to watch for the coming week to see would they be able to hold that support and continue to move higher, or would they come back down and break that support and then come back and flip it and then test it, the support term resistance. So keep an eye on that price action for the coming week. Be sure to smash the thumbs up and give it a like if you find this video to be informative and useful. If you are new to this channel, click the subscribe to support this channel. Thank you for watching and stay safe. And a reminder, be sure to keep an eye out for the video that I will put out this weekend where I will describe in a little bit more detail on the price action and scenario for the SPY, QQQ, IWM, the diamond, and a couple of the stock that might be of interest.